Sometimes you're so focused on the future or what you envision this to be that you don't even take a step forward because you've already played out every scenario and you're like, oh, that won't work, or I can't do that because, or I'll fail, or that conversation won't go right. And it was like a realization of like, I am so doing that and it's all in my head. And so just take one step forward, and it can be small. I feel like in the past, or where I was getting so hung up, is I was trying to go from point 1 to point 100, and that's hard. So like actually doing little things helped the progress be made in a way that just didn't undo overnight when you have a bad moment.
Hi, I'm Blake Schofield, founder and CEO of The Bridge to Fulfillment, mom to 3, USA Today top 10 professional coach, and former corporate executive who got tired of sacrificing my life for a comfortable paycheck. My mission is to expand women's perspectives and empower them to achieve greater impact at home and work without sacrifice. This is The Bridge to Fulfillment. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Bridge to Fulfillment. I am so excited to share my client Kari's story with you today, or actually for her to share her story with you, because I'm not sharing it, she is. Often I think there are perceptions about hiring a career coach, going through a process of making a change in your career, and what success should or could look like, what actions or steps you have to take. And I'm really excited for Kari to be able to share her story because her ending is probably not what she thought it was going to be when she came in. Probably not what most people would think about when they come into the Bridge to Fulfillment. And yet, to me, it's a perfect example of exactly what we do here, which is really about helping each woman figure out what success means to her and giving her the skills, tools, knowledge, and ability really to be able to create that more fulfilling career in life for herself. And Kari has done that in spades. So with that said, welcome to the Bridge to Fulfillment podcast. So happy to have you, Kari.
Thank you.
Yeah. As you know, I always like to start these and give people a little bit of a background. So when you and I first connected, what was going on in your life and your career?
Yeah. So when I reached out to you, I would say I had been at my company my entire career, and I'd been in my current role for some time, 4-ish years. And I felt like I was at a standstill of what do I want to do next? And I'd felt like this for a while. And although it was there, I just never had made any steps forward in like figuring out what that could be. And I felt so overwhelmed in thinking about it. I would also add in, I am a working mom. I had 3 kids at the time that were 2, 3, 5. And I just felt exhausted, overwhelmed, and that like each day was like Groundhog's Day of just like going through the motions. And as I paused, it was like, was I being my best for them as a wife, as a mom at my work? And I just felt kind of lost at the time.
And what ended up leading you to connect with me and decide to invest in making a change?
At our first meeting, I was just super intrigued about kind of the process. And for me, I'm kind of linear thinking. I like to have actionable progress. And I needed that somebody to hold me accountable to doing it. As I talked to my husband, I felt like it was something that I kept talking about, but I never actually carved out the time to do it. And when I committed to this, it was like, I'm doing it. I'm going to carve out the time. I'm going to have somebody that I can lean on. I can have other women to learn from. I can have a plan. I can have someone to keep me accountable. And I felt like I needed that support system to do it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Was there a moment that triggered you to say, I just can't do this anymore on my own?
I think a little bit was just in reflecting and realizing that I felt like I was having the same conversation over and over again with my husband of like, it just kind of living in this state of the same conversation with no progress. That was like, how long am I going to allow myself to just spin on this? And I also think I had reached a point in my career where I was having conversations of like, what's next? And I felt like I didn't even know what to say. Like I couldn't articulate what I wanted. And so as I even was trying to explore, like I just felt like I wasn't going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point. And often I actually, now that you say that, have a lot of women say that to me, that they've been in their job, they're unfulfilled, they're unhappy, and their boss is asking them, what do they want to do next? And they have no idea. And it's a very difficult place to be in because you feel this massive pressure that I should know, I need to tell them. What are they going to think? Are they going to realize I'm unhappy? But to your point, you're sort of just stuck flailing in the water with no lifeboat because you don't know where to go next. So as you decided, okay, this is great, I'm going to come in, I'm going to get accountability, I'm going to get a process, I'm going to be able to really move through this. When you stepped into the process of creating change for yourself, what did you think it was going to be like? And how was it different than what you expected coming in?
I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be solely focused on career. How do you network? What are your strengths? How do you explain them? Which is for sure part of it. But I actually say one of the things that I feel like I've taken away from this is just overall kind of like your life coaching as well and the impact that's had on me. So as I mentioned, I felt like kind of so in all areas of my life. And I feel like having this time of reflection of what makes me happy, what do I want to do? How do I want my family to be? What kind of mom? What are the things that bring me joy? Actually spending the time to think through, put in real goals has helped me rebalance my life and feel so fulfilled, not only in my career, but on all of the other things that are really important at the end of the day. So I think when I came in, I was like, this was all about career, but what it's unlocked for me is far more than that.
Awesome. And we'll definitely dig more into that as we go. But let's maybe take our listeners a little bit through the journey. When you kind of think back on your journey, where you were when you started, burned out, tired, lost. One of the things you said to me, one of your biggest fears was the negative impact on your kids, feeling you weren't present or that you were putting work ahead of them, the impact it was having in your marriage. So you came in and you're like, I'm ready to get started. When you look back on that journey, what's the first big win you had, or the first thing that you said, okay, great, like I see progress. I see I'm being able to start to move forward finally?
I think two things. One is just like really ruthless forced prioritization of what I need to do every single day. So like I started on like a weekly basis being like, if I can accomplish these few things, then the week was good. And then even on the day, what are the two things I need to get done today? And if I walk away if I shut off my computer at 5 and I've done those two things, great. Like, I feel like without that, sometimes we can just get caught up in the day. And so that was like one. I think the other thing that kind of made me laugh is you talked about, oh gosh, I'm going to forget the word, but like the best use of your time, high leverage time. And I realized that I was multitasking all day long in work, multitasking, checking email, popping around. Even as a mom, you're like, I'm half listening. I'm also checking my email. I'm also making dinner, multitasking at all fronts. And that was one thing that I remember just thinking like, how could I not check my email all day long? And then I started to actually block time where I focused and I saw how much more efficient I was. And even with my kids of like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to focus, and how much more special those moments were and how much more engaged. And it just like unlocked moments of really focusing myself. I could accomplish more and gain more out of the day than trying to do 7 things at the same time.
I love that. The calendar process that we do at the beginning is probably one of my favorites, because I think most of us have not been taught. We've been given planners, we're given all this advice, but as you and I both know, there's both the tactical, how do I do it? But there's the emotional, there's the mental part of how do I do it? And to be able to unlock that and recognize that you have more power over your calendar, over your time, over your focus than you ever thought that you did, I think is so powerful. And such an important lesson, because so many women are unfulfilled because their life is hectic and crazy. And they either think, I can't progress up my career because I'm not willing to sacrifice, or I just need to go to a job where I have better balance, more time, etc. But a lot of times, both of those things actually aren't true. When you have the right skills, right, then you're able to be able to influence the environment, make better decisions, and be able to actually get what you need to get done, but then to your point, really enjoy your life. So I love that. So as you went through this process, one of the big things that we talked about early on was that you really wanted to get clarity. What it is you really wanted to do and be able to articulate that. What did you learn through the process? And how do you see how that was different than what you were trying to do beforehand?
I think one of like my eye-opening moments was almost like how much confidence was getting in my way. And what I mean by that is you talk a lot about your secret sauce. And as I went through that process of what do I like? What am I good at? I felt where I had been, I almost was always downplaying that type of thing where it was like, well, I mean, I'm good at that, but like everybody's good at that. A little bit, like where you see the strengths in others, but you can't see it in yourself. And so I think when I spent a lot of time reflecting on that and going through some of the
exercises,
the documents and what are the moments that we had with that coach?
Oh, with Britt? When we did Success and Empowerment? Yeah.
Yes. When we went through some of those, I feel like I had a few moments of like, yeah, I'm getting in my own way by not celebrating the things that I actually am really good at. And it feels good to be good at those things. And so when I leaned into that more of what is it that I'm passionate about, but also who am I? What makes me special? What are my natural strengths? I felt like I was able to unlock a little bit more of articulating what I must have in my next role.
Awesome. So you went through this process, you gained confidence, you got control of your calendar, you're having the ability to have more space, time, presence in your day. And now you understand what it is that you're really looking for, what you're gifted at. Tell me a little bit about your journey to finding your next role and ultimately what has happened and transpired for you since then.
Yeah. So I would say I went through the process of, shall we say, casting my net wide, but like really trying to open myself up of like, okay, now that I can articulate, these are the things I want. What types of roles would that be? What type of company would that be? And I started to kind of do all of the work to think through and connect and network and have great conversations. Interestingly enough, the role that I ended up moving to was within my own company. And it's not far from the job that I had, to be honest, but I'm very happy with it. And I think what I had talked about earlier is my boss was saying, what next? And I couldn't say, I felt like I had been spending so much time focusing on a title and what would that do? And what does that own? And maybe that's not for me. I don't know. Feel like I had gotten in my own way a bit on that front. And so when I could actually say to her, I'm ready for my next move. These are the things that I want to gain experience in. These are the things that I definitely want to continue to do. This is the type of team environment I would want to join. Like when I could say exactly what that was, she came back to me nearly immediately and was like, I think I have a role that could be a great fit. And she was like, now that you've said it, I just so clearly saw a good space for you and we could talk about that. And I ended up applying and moving to that job. And it just has been really rewarding and not what I thought would be the end of my journey, but I felt very happy with where it brought me to.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll just say words matter. So it's never the end of your journey, not what you thought would be the next step, right? and I think that's beautiful because there's an evolution there. Mm-hmm. And I think often we get caught in this very black and white perspective about things, right? What do we focus on at the Bridge to Fulfillment? We focus on getting you to the right next step, mm-hmm. right? But you should continue to evolve. Mm-hmm. And the skills, tools, knowledge that you have will be the foundation of which you continue to build on as you look at, because several years from now, you might be ready for something else.
Yes.
But now you have the tools, knowledge, and experience to go, I know what to do. I know how to take this. I know how to keep moving myself forward, which is, I think, such a beauty of this process. And what I think is so important for people to understand is when you get to this crossroads or this place in your life and your career is you want to be looking at this as developing lifelong skills, mm-hmm. right? Not just putting a Band-Aid on your problem, but actually lifelong skills that you can benefit and continue to move forward. You shared something earlier, and I'd love to dig into it a little bit mm-hmm. more if I could.
Yeah.
You said the work I'm doing is not far from what I was doing before. Often, I think women look at what we do at the Bridge to Fulfillment and think it has to be this huge, massive, drastic change. And what I often say is the level of change always depends on the level of misalignment for each individual person and what they need. So can you dive in a little bit more about you saying it's not far from what you were doing before? Because that, I think to some people, they might be like, well, then did you even really need help? And then did it really change your life that much? Or could it have been more simple? And I'd love to hear a little bit more about how is it different? How is your life today, your career today different? And what did you learn about what was misaligned from the get-go that you were able to shift and adjust to make the right move this time?
It was good for me to go through the process of the exploration of what do I like? What am I passionate about? What are my strengths? And for me, it was a journey that I needed to take to ultimately say, there are parts of what I do that I love. And when I think about not doing those, that doesn't really seem like the right thing either. And so for part of that was just like, I needed to kind of do the exercise to even get myself there of like, yes, this actually is a good fit based on the things that I'm doing. But in my move, I also think as we went through it, to your point of it being like an ongoing progression, I think that I had never taken the time and obviously it's always an ongoing thing about where could I see myself in the future? What would I like to be doing? And I think I have a little bit more clarity on like some routes that might make sense for me. And it helped me also identify what are the steps I would need to take in the short term or to get there. And so I think that was also eye-opening of like why of the role that I ended up moving into is being able to articulate the things that I wanted to gain, help me move into a higher leader role, work on developing a team. So it's like helping me gain skill sets that I know are necessary for the where I would like to get to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%. So I would describe it, in my words, as you created a roadmap for what you wanted. What was the journey that you wanted to go on? What are the skills that you needed to learn to get there so you could take that next step and know that it was aligned in progressing you towards what you wanted long term? And that before this process, you didn't really have that. It was sort of this blank slate. I don't really know where I want to go.
Yes. That is very well said.
Okay, good. Well, good. Then I caught it well. You talked a lot about this journey earlier, both being helpful for you professionally as well as personally. I'd like to dive into both a little bit if I can, because there's some things you shared with me on the professional front that I think are really impressive. And I was super proud of you for. You had shared that since you went through this process, you've been getting some different feedback. Things have been happening inside the organization that were different than what you had experienced before as a result of having this clarity, understanding how to position and communicate who you are, what you need, the confidence levels. Can you share a little bit about how these skills that you gained, knowledge that you gained, have impacted how you show up on a day-to-day basis at work and sort of what's happening there?
For sure. I mean, I think being my own advocate definitely has not gone unnoticed of being able to voice over what I'm looking for, what I want, what my goals are. I would also say I have definitely shown up as a better leader and a better partner within my team just because of kind of this new life skills I gained, to be honest with you, of like prioritization and support and I don't know, almost like a little bit of vulnerability of what we're working on beyond work and how we're taking our time and what we're focusing our efforts on. And so I think that there's been an unlock of just of like my own, but also the benefit that I've had on the people that I work with every day.
That's awesome. And so obviously you feel that yourself. Are there feedback or signs and symptoms you're getting from the people that you work from that leads you to see that they're seeing that too?
Yes, it's sort of become a running joke with some of like the key people I work with of goals, and we call it manifesting, but it's just like, what are the things that we want to get? And like, what are our hopes? And that book that we read of you kind of create a vision for yourself and you unconsciously work towards it, like it just like unlocked something in me. And so I've been sharing a little bit of that wealth with people, and people are like, this is such a positive environment now of not only the stuff that we do, but the support that we have for each other, which has been definitely a side that I did not expect coming out of this, but has been really fun to see the positive impact even on others.
Oh, I love that. It's like the old adage that I say, right? You throw the pebble into the water and it's the ripple effect of that. And I love that you're sharing what you've learned and being able to help other people understand the power of what they think and the power of their actions to be able to create what they want. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how about on the personal side? You said there's been a lot that this program unlocked for you there. What are some changes and how are you seeing that show up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really boiled down to an intentional use of my time and really planning. Like, I mean, it sounds silly, but it's like, I feel like we were in this state of, you're just so busy with little kids and your career, and it's carving out the time to do the things that really bring us joy as a family. So I'm going to set a goal that once a month we get a babysitter and we go out on a date. Seems so simple, but I would say we had gone months without doing that. And so it's something small, but it makes us happy. It's a chance for us to connect. That's a small thing. Devoted time with kids. I'm going to focus when I'm with them. I'm going to do 10 minutes where I'm undivided attention, playing with you. It sounds small, but I can just see the impact that it has on them. And it's been just so wonderful as a mom to feel and see that firsthand.
I love that. What are the things that you're seeing from your kids? And you said you can just see the impact. What are you seeing that's coming through in that you can recognize that the things you're doing are positively impacting them?
I mean, I'm like semi-embarrassed to say this, but I feel like before I was always, had my phone around and you're checking emails and I'm like kind of distracted. I feel like they see now that when I'm focused on them, I'm focused on them and the phone is away. I think I was running myself so thin that then my own patience was gone, and having this time to I'm going to spend a little bit of time reading. I'm going to go on the date. I'm going to schedule that get together with my girlfriend and go to lunch. It's things that I think sometimes we get in our head that it's like selfish, but it's also, I have seen it gives me the moments that help me then come back with the patience to be a better mom and to, go through the life craziness with them, which I think that they can see that maybe mom's not as overwhelmed as she was before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. I have every confidence they can because I've personally experienced that. I was the same mom, constantly on the phone, distracted. And I think what happens when you can show up and be fully present is you recognize the things when your kids need things, right? The hug or the support or the cheering on or whatever that might be, because you can fully connect to what they're experiencing and what they're living. And that creates a bond that ultimately, if we talk about, second, third, and fourth order consequences, which is what happens years down the road or months down the road, normally we don't connect that. We normally think I take an action and here's an outcome and then that's it. But the reality is that's not true. Usually we take an action, but then we don't see, especially if it's behavioral, we don't see the outcome for months or years to come. And so the fact that you're able to be present and give your children that undivided attention and they feel loved, appreciated, and seen will have humongous benefit long-term on their personal self-esteem, values, how they feel about themselves, their ability to talk to you about the bully at school or the girl or boy that they like, right? All of these things that sort of start with the foundation of that relationship really early on. So I think that's so amazing that you're able to do it. And I know that you're not alone in having had that struggle. I personally went through that. I think a lot of women do. And some of the things that you mentioned today, I love because you said it sounds really simple. But here's the thing I think is really important. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy.
No, right.
And I think that it's important for people to understand that if you've tried to apply these things on your own and you've struggled, understand that you're not failing at that, right? You're not a failure. And I think many times we can get to that of like, oh, I just can't do it. But usually the reason is because you're only applying tactics to a situation that needs both the emotional and the tactical side of things. And we have to address both because in order to be able to not check emails all day at work, you had to get past a lot of fears about what if I let down people? What if people think I'm not doing a good job? What if XYZ, right? A lot of survival fear-based things. And if you don't address those things, you're not going to take the action because you're going to be driven by, I can't do this because my job will be at risk and then my family will be at risk. And the same thing happens just across the board anytime we're looking at any type of significant change in our behavior or our lifestyle, is to understand that if you tried these things in the past, they seem simple, you're beating yourself up because you can't do it. it's likely because you don't have the right process. You're not dealing with both the emotional and the tactical, or you need some support to be able to see different ways around or different ways to do it. Because the best answers are simple. This doesn't always mean they're easy.
And I think one thing I hadn't mentioned, but I do feel like what you just said sparked it. It's reminded me. But one aha I had with you is you're like, sometimes you're so focused on the future or what you envision this to be that you don't even take a step forward because you've already played out every scenario and you're like, oh, that won't work, or I can't do that because, or I'll fail, or that conversation won't go right. And it was like a realization of like, I am so doing that and it's all in my head. And so remember even just some of your advice of like, just take one step forward, just one step forward, and it can be small. Okay, it sounds scary to not check your email all night. Okay, why don't you try to not do it for a little bit? But I feel like having those baby steps in helped me to actually make progress, because it wasn't like, I feel like in the past or where I was getting so hung up is I was trying to go from point 1 to point 100, and that's hard. So like actually doing little things helped the progress be made in a way that just didn't undo overnight when you have a bad moment.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think that is one of the biggest lessons of my life. I think those of us that are type A planners, we're used to doing that. We have an opportunity to rewire and learn a different way to be successful in a way that's a lot easier, a lot less stress, and a whole lot more momentum. So I love that you shared that, because that was one of my biggest lessons. And I think it's one of the consistent things I see for women in this program is to learn how to get out of that stuckness as this is the only way I can be successful, and actually start to live life with a lot more ease and create what you want with a whole lot less work, strain, stress, all of it. Yeah. Well, Kari, I know our time is coming close to a close. So I will ask you this. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have, or that's on your heart that you really want to share?
Thank you for your wisdom that you share. And I want to emphasize that like the benefit that this has had for me personally far exceeded what I came in envisioning. I know I hit on like the career, like that was really all I was focused on when I came. And as I reflect of my happiness level and having the time and the purpose and being able to feel like I'm really devoting my time and energy on the things that bring me joy, both outside of work and inside of work, I just didn't expect to this degree. So I'm just, thank you for that. And I just want to make sure that that point is clear, that there's so much more benefits that get unlocked through this program.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a small part of your journey. Thank you for coming and sharing your story to help inspire and help other women understand what's possible for them. And like I said, when I asked you to do this, I was like, will be so amazing for you to come share, because I think that there's a real perception around what it has to look like to be a part of this program. And you showcase a different dynamic of that, which is that success looks different for every single person. Maybe it doesn't have to be a drastic career change. Maybe it actually is figuring out how to position yourself from a career path in the current company that you're at. And also that the keys to fulfillment and happiness, we often think are just about moving to the next job. But the reality is it isn't. And when you can gain the right lifelong skills for what you need to appreciate who you are, stand in your value, and understand how to focus your time, your energy, your efforts on what really matters to you, you can create a much more fulfilling life than you probably ever even thought was possible.
Very good.
Thank you. So thank you again for joining us. And until next time, have a great one. Thanks for joining me today. Rather than hope the grass will be greener, identify what the right next step is. We can help you do just that. Get clarity on where you are in your journey to career fulfillment, where you're headed, optimal paths to get there, and the right next step to take. Start your complimentary personalized career fulfillment plan at www.thebridgetofulfillment.com/plan. Again, you can get your personalized career fulfillment plan at thebridgetofulfillment.com/plan. Thanks again for joining, and have a great week ahead.